Hey people, this is about the wall of Pharaoh's Kukulatan, and everybody knows who this is. You just know him better by Plato, who was born somewhere around 425 BC. But Plato is just a pseudonym, just a pen name, and claims of one other pseudonym through the genes of Lesser Tius, through genes of Lesser Tius. There's no history of him either, but he's the one that made the claim that Plato was named by his wrestling coach for his girth. And he's got probably the biggest collection of ancient writings. And they'll tell you that he's the one that named the Platonic solids. Geometers have studied Platonic solids for thousands of years. Geometers, a mathematician whose area of study is geometry, and named for the ancient Greek philosopher Plato. And it never occurred to him that maybe that means the width, the Platos, the width and the diameter, and from the geometrician, a studier of geometric shapes. And little do people know that the Washington Monument was set in fashion of the writings of Pharaoh Kukulatan. And it represents the eye of Borris Rex, the right eye. And this shows what's got to happen in order to grow knowledge. This knowledge, these are things that you know and that are true. And they fall in this circle of your beliefs. And things that are true that fall in this circle of your beliefs, you haven't any evidence, but you believe are true because they fall within the circle of your beliefs. But it's not set up on the circle of truth. What's actually true is here. This just happens to fall inside of that part. In order for this to grow, you have to start justifying your beliefs. And being that all the ones you're able to justify are going to be on this side, it's going to start pushing your circle of beliefs over closer to the truths, because you can't change the truth. Only the circle of beliefs can move. And your circle of beliefs can be right on top of the circle of truths, but until you start justifying, it's not really knowledge until you start justifying them. And so this gives a good definition of what knowledge means. The problem is that in your ophthalmos, you're not seeing this. What you're seeing is this circle of your beliefs right on top of the circle of truths, and this circle of knowledge covering the whole thing. And that's the way you see it. You're not seeing it from above. That means these things that you believe are true, you can't justify. So this is the writings about me, and I am the man with the cord to measure. I'm fixing to justify some beliefs here. This is all top secret, and I'm going to try to read this whole chapter, I think 13 lines. But it's going to explain who the daughters of Babylon are, and why the Lord Almighty keeps sending him out. That he has sent me out. And that's ancient for top secret. And it means it's safe. E-T-S-A-F-E. It's safes. It's safes talk me. And it means, me is the guy who's doing the writing, telling the story. And it's safe talks me is when he sends you out so he can talk to somebody else in private. It means he sent me out, and it's safe talks me. But this word fire, and roundabout it, this is the Pharaohs. The Pharaoh was the sun. He was the fire that went roundabout. But this is the Pharaohs of the cycle of 10, the fire cycle of 10. And so Aten, that's a common Egyptian name. And you recognize it by this symbol of the Aten, the sun. You see it here with Pharaoh Akhenaten, the Aten up here, and geometry over here, his wife geometry. The Aten is the sun, the cycle of 10, or roundabout. They'll say in about 10 years the sun goes through a cycle. And this is all documented, and here's the cycle of Aten and his doxon. And his docs of his homage, what he would be known for. What he would be known for. His homage in the myths of this. It's where your word author comes from. Of the, Thor running around with a hammer, it was of Thor because he was chiseling it in the stone. So I'm going to start this off with a shock to your beliefs. And everybody believes this says my eyes, moi, and plural, and moi, my, plural, I. But this actually comes from soft. The soft allum moves 'em of. Whereat of soft all moves 'em of. Wide on, who would on, wide on. And who'd of honor when the cherry of two was showing a young home a trick on. Was and showing a young homey trick on. And so this is where your word trician comes from. Pediatrician comes from the oldest profession, turning a trick on. And the young homey a trick on. So this is written in, Mason code, the whole Bible is. And it has dual meanings. And so he's making fun of Plato's diagram of knowledge. And the old phallus trick on. And you see it at the Vatican too. They're showing the geometry con. And they paper the papyrus. The paper sought on a faux pas, which is a big mistake, and that paper, the paper sought on the pooper, which, and your writings are good for toilet paper. And wise. I read this EIPE combination as an S. I found it in a Dutch dictionary where it's impossible to tell the F and the S apart. And they read that as a wise. You see with the N off, and wise and meaning philosopher, wise. And you have to watch it close, because some fonts there's two different S's. One of them is a final S, looks like the S. But if you go on down, you see it come after N, O, and then P. This is the P. And this is wise. And if you go on down, you see it's this P through until it goes to the S. Here's the S here. And wise too. And this is where we get our word hip. H-I-P. And hip to it. And hip, the force met of, the diameter said in. Diameter, that's a Greek god. And diameter said, the T and the D mix up. And the diameter set in. Gyros. Turns all come. Wide in. You just got extra E in here this time. Wide in. And that's where they're getting vidi, to see. Vidi, Vicky. Vidi, the Greek to see. But the turns all come wide. And it's telling them, the way you're trying to explain it, it ain't working. The phallus on to plate as. A big old phallus on the plate. Of this, Esti, that's west. It's Egyptian symbol for west. It means west or the right hand. And the Esti of phallus on to mekaz. And me meaning little, not much cause. And you see this is one of the base words they'll say for no or not cause. And the paper is sought on the faux pas, which wise the force met of, the diameter set in. Hyros all come wide in, phallus on to plate as. Of this west of palace on to Mechas, to little cause. And why do of angle as all a-loving? It looks like all alone. But this N is turning into a B here, or a V, a vet. And all a love. And then this N is turning into the B again with this E following. And a love in call, oi. and they stelly. So the K being followed by the E becomes an L, and Ley, and they stelly to heteros. Heteros is not another. Heteros is opposite, homos and heteros in the opposite angle. And who do of angle all of loving them call they stelly. They stelly and heteros in the opposite angle as it's sephiro too. It's sephiro. It's separ who it. So anybody ain't hip to it, this is just 10 sephiros here, and containing the 10 heavens. And it's sephiro to his sin on this end, the sin, SUN, together. That's where they get meat from, the sin, and on this end is making fun of the moon. The sin is the moon, and talking about the angles of the moon, and the sephiro of this to his of together on the sin, on the moon of two. And so all the sephiros, they have a bunch of qualities that go with them. And wise in foresought on, to foresee, foresought on. Wise and to see in the future, the forethought on. A drain, and that would be the weave or the texture. You can pull a tape measure over the run, the distance, and you pull it tight and it's going to give you the distance, but a rolling wheel is going to go up and down hills. It's going to be longer. A drain is a ray from point to point. And wise and foresought on the drain, to seeing what the seaside's going to be, knowing A and B and getting C, will a lesson forced on. And this NE turned to the bet, it's the beanie. That young man, the one wearing a beanie. The beanie and laying on. The kid, with the beanie and a little prop on his head. The beanie of laying on. And a lesson forced on the kids. And legend according to kata carpos. And carpos are fruit as in with a twisted wrist. Carpos are wrist. So that means to twist. As you were picking a fruit. And you do it with the wrist. And the legend according to the carpos. And Katui catches the day. And they're getting this inhabited from this oik. Is they'll say is household, and it usually means the people in the household, what kind of sexual programs going on usually. And the catto, they'll also give this according to the household that catches this day, and turns all come a populate whose, because of the multitude of men, a populate who's on drop it on the populace. So the men is over here in this populate who's on drop on, and set on of, E following, the set on of in a mist of this, up amongst the mist. And we go, let's drink to. Here we go again. And we go his homage. Let's drink to his homage. Of the ledge they carry us, they chose. The ledge of curios they chose. You see the ledge of curios on the Book of the Dead. All the little curios on the shelf. The ledge they curios they chose. The curious. In homage of the ledge they curious they chose. The ones that weren't taking a word for it and was looking into it. The man with the cord measure. And we go as homage of a ledge the curious they chose. Pharaoh's cycle of 10 and his docks on his homage in a miss of this. The rose, you'll see this all through here. And the rose, means this is secret. Eros, the sun, Cupid, the son of Venus. And every time they didn't want somebody talked about, they rose up the rose. It's all secret. And so that's why the law was, if you're going to write about these things, they had to be coded and under the rose. So this next line is what made me say that was the eye of Borris Rex. Borris Rex is the god of the north. But it's not actually what it says. And it's a fugit apodges. Apodges. And so a fugit, one on the run. Oh, a fugit. Apodges is a country home. A shack out in the country. Apodges is to live in a little shack in the country. Oh, a fugit apodges. And so this isn't Bora. This is in. And this double R reads as a O-R-I, airy. And so you have two eyes. You have your eye of airy, which is the right eye, and it's on the area. And your left eye hones in on one, and your right eye covers the whole area. And a fugit apodges in the airy, in areology. Areology, the study of the right eye. And that's where I was getting that at. But I'll come back and read this in another movie. I found something while I was doing this that'll stun you. And it's going to change everything you think you know about Homer and the sack of Troy. And I'll make it a quick one and I'll get back to finish this chapter. But in Greek fashion, this is Troy and this is the sack of Troy. And in the same fashion of the Bible, they try to create cities out of sexual positions. And I'll get into that in the next one. Have a good day.